Well, Kraken fans, I told you yesterday the odds were not in our favor, and we once again dropped to 8 in the NHL Draft. We'll talk a little bit about that and a few other topics on today's episode of Locked On Kraken.
You are Locked On Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what do you say, Seattle hockey fans? Welcome to another episode of Locked On Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we bring you your favorite team, the Seattle Kraken, every single day. Erica L. Ayala here, your host of Locked On Kraken, also a contributor at CBS Sports, where I cover the NHL and women's basketball, founder of Black Rosie Media, where we empower Black women and melanated creators in sports media. Will soon be a 3-time Olympic journalist. Covered Beijing, Paris, and Milano Cortina is up next. Super excited about that. And on today's show, we'll actually talk some international hockey later on, but I'm just stalling. Thanks for making us your first listen. It's kind of late, but maybe it's still your first listen. But our everydayers and OGers, we talked about it a few times, including yesterday. Went live. And, the Kraken, for those who are all about Team Tank, you weren't thrilled with our odds going into the draft lotto, but I'll just put it this way. The team with the 10th best odds ends up with the number 1 pick. Like it's on some, like, the NHL be like, "Oh, you're not going to get all-stars, so we'll give you the number 1 pick." Yeah. Congrats to the Islanders. The Kraken not only do not keep their 6th spot, but they slide to 8. And I've mentioned it a few times. It's not really the depth of this draft. The depth. Ooh, that's a callback. The depth of this draft is it's not really maybe if we pick a defenseman, like I said, but even then, yeah, I don't think that we're going to get a pick that is expected to make an impact right away. I'll put it that way. I think that there's definitely, the Seattle Kraken are going to take a look at the draft and who's available and make the most informed decision that they can at that 8 spot. But if we were expecting someone, a young phenom, to come in and make the roster right out of camp, that's not happening. It wasn't going to happen anyway. So I know some people are really bummed out. The worst case scenario has happened for the Seattle Kraken. Got comments on YouTube saying, this team is never really gonna get to where they need to be. And you know what? There's I get it. I get it. I had a comment, hockey in Washington. We were at 6 before the lottery. Now we're at 8. There's no way we'll get a decent defenseman at 8. We don't need any more forwards. We need good, big, strong defensemen to keep the puck. I agree with you, hockey in Washington. People still saying Mertka and Smith, no trade needed. I do think the Seattle Kraken team still needs to make some moves. Hockey in Washington said earlier in the comments, Seattle is never all caps, never going to get a decent pick in a draft. All good players will be gone in the first 4 picks. So frustrating. And I get it. It is frustrating to an extent. And, the odds were not in our favor. We were not likely to get of a top 4 pick. I wasn't really banking on it, to be honest. So I don't know. I mean, it would have been great. It's just a fun activity, something exciting to talk about, other than, why did we fire our coach? Who's going to be our next coach? Why do we have a president all of a sudden? What's this new GM all about? Are we going to buy out Philip Grubauer? Like we have a lot of problems. We have a lot of problems, or things to discuss, things that need to be ironed out for this Seattle Kraken team and franchise. And I feel like I said it yesterday. I wasn't really expecting this draft to be, the saving grace for this organization. Like, no, not even close. I think more so it's going to come to what we're going to talk about in the next segment, which is developing the talent that we have, which again, I thought was the whole point of bringing on Dan Bilesma. But I've also said, including yesterday, I just think there was a power struggle. There was like a power. Oh, I can hear my knuckles. That's intense. Okay. ASMR Locked on Kraken episode. Is that the right yeah, right. Okay. Anyway, um that's mashing of my brain cells together trying to talk about the Seattle Kraken team sometime. I didn't expect that we were going to get, you know, eh, um a player that was really going to make training camp competitive and make training camp. I still want us to try and find a defenseman that we can train up. Um, but I don't know. I guess indifferent at best is how I'm feeling. I really want to see what Jason Botterill is going to do. I just want to get to the action steps. Like I'm more about the action steps, and there are just some things that we can't really talk about yet because we still have the playoffs going on. Oh my gosh, that Winnipeg Blues game. Oof. Oof. Wow, wow, wow. I mean, thrilling, depending on what side of the coin you're on, I suppose. But wow, 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 wow. Um, yeah, I don't know. I honestly just don't really have much to say about this because I know I wasn't gonna get worked up. I'm anti-team tank. So, but again, this is why I'm anti-team tank. Okay, I said I wasn't gonna get worked up, and then I'm like, oh, I'm indifferent, and then I start talking about tanking, and I start seeing red. Um, the team with the 10th best odds ends up with the number 1 pick. You have like true perennial tankers. San Jose, Chicago, like where are they? They're not the Sharks are in the top 2. But like come on. Come on. No team tank. But I do agree it's looking difficult to build exclusively out of the draft. And so as much draft stock and capital, whatever you want to say, prospect pipeline as the Seattle Kraken have built, if they can't get creative in how they maneuver in free agency with trades, they're going to have to start moving some draft capital or maybe even some prospects if this is an as soon as possible. But again, what I keep telling you is that we don't really know what as soon as possible means to the different people in this organization. And I think it was Striatic that kind of broke it down. Are we taking as soon as possible literally? I mean, why would you say as soon as possible if you didn't literally mean as soon as possible? Because we've been hearing from Todd Lightwicki, even before the season ended, even before, right, the trade deadline, that this is a team that is not in a rebuild. So when you say as soon as possible and you're saying you're not in a rebuild, the timeline for as soon as possible for me gets shorter. Maybe it's not a year, one singular solitary year, but it's not 3. We are already now 2 full seasons removed from our only playoff run. What? And so are we expecting a new head coach to get us back to the playoffs? And then what happens when we can't catch that lightning in a bottle again? Do we then fire that head coach also? Like, where's the continuity coming from when it comes to the NHL team? I mean, the coaching situation is you gotta hit a home run with this one. You gotta hit a home run. And Jason Botterill, I mean, this just came to my mind, so I'm gonna say it. I mean, this Seattle Kraken organization must really love Ron Francis because once again, I think his move to president, if as soon as possible means what I think as soon as possible means, then Jason Botterill's got a really tough freaking job, right? And Ron Francis would always say, no one wants to be the first GM of an expansion team, maybe the second. He says that he would say that all of the time. I don't know if anyone wants to be the second for the Seattle Kraken team when there are just so many questions. Again, like knuckles. I think there was a power struggle going on, which is why we're in the position that we are for yet again, um, in need of a head coach. And it just seems like this might be a situation where the Seattle Kraken is kind of providing some cushion, a soft place to fall for Ron Francis. That puts a lot of pressure, in my opinion, on Jason Botterill, given all of the things that this franchise, not just the roster, but that this franchise needs. And is Ron Francis taking up an equal part of that? I don't know. I don't understand. I don't understand a lot of moves. I feel like this whole first segment was really just a rant. I'm indifferent about the pick itself. I didn't want us to slip to 8, but I was prepared for it. We talked about it on yesterday's live stream. I mean, there was that though that we settled into the best odds given all of the different scenarios. That we had the best odds for the worst outcome, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And that's what happened. We weren't as lucky as the Islanders. Yeah, I guess we'll just have to see. In the coming days, we'll start breaking down mock drafts and, prospect boards and stuff like that. I really do want to see a defenseman go. So I'm going to lean into my picks while also giving you what other people are saying. And we'll do some profile pieces as we move forward. But on today's episode, I'm going to go back to a little snippet of that conversation with Jessica Campbell. If you are one of our Locked On Kraken insiders, you already have access to the full interview, including me trying to get an understanding of what Jessica Campbell's role will be with the Seattle Kraken moving forward. But I want to focus on what Jessica Campbell told me last week in our exclusive interview about Shane Wright and Matty Beniers, because again, in my estimation, the Seattle Kraken aren't going to be able to hit that ASAP window unless they're developing the prospects that are already in the NHL and a few more coming through that can come up from the AHL. So we'll talk about that coming up on today's episode of Locked On Kraken.
An award-winning mattress can change your life. I speak from experience. It happened to me. After years of uncomfortable sleeps, I recently switched to Bear Mattress, and the results were instant. Bear Mattress is designed with a focus on recovery, cooling, and pressure relief to upgrade your sleep and improve your overall quality of life. I used to deal with night sweats, but Bear's best-in-class cooling ensures optimal temperature regulation, which prevents overheating and helps me stay comfortable all night long. Bear offers a wide variety of mattresses, but to get the right one for you, take their sleep quiz that matches you to your perfect mattress based on body type and sleep preferences. Go to bearmattress.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL at checkout to get 40% off site-wide. This offer is not available anywhere else. You have to use my promo code on the very last page of checkout to get this discount. That's bearmattress.com. Use my promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get 40% off site-wide. Bearmattress.com, promo code LOCKEDONNHL.
Hey, thanks as always for making Locked On Kraken a part of your daily destination, sometimes even your first listen of the day. Erica Ayala, your host of Locked On Kraken, told you, I'm indifferent about the 8 pick. You roll with the punches. I'm more interested about some other things that are going to happen with the organization, and we will still give you some prospect lists. But now let's talk about the present, not just prospects, but the present, and likely, at least from where we're our vantage point, the future, right, of the Seattle Kraken. And that is through the center, Matty Beniers and Shane Wright. I had a great conversation with Jessica Campbell. If you listen to it, insiders, she made a change to her hair, which I noted. in the interview off the top. But I mean, she seemed in good spirits. She was in great spirits. You can actually check out the ESPNW Summit and her panel. It was actually, a whole panel of women working with the Seattle Kraken. So definitely check that out. I actually have to rewatch that. I was interviewing people from the previous panel, and so I missed the start of the women of the Kraken panel. But uh always great to talk with Jessica. Again, didn't really get too much information regarding what's next for her, but hopefully I'll be able to bring that news to you as soon as we know something. So I'll keep you posted there. Made some connects and some contacts, and hopefully those will bear fruit as we continue on in this offseason trying to figure out what Jessica Campbell is going to do. But what we do know is that she called 2025 the year of Beniers right with us on Locked On Kraken, and also played it on the Women's Hockey Report when I was in Seattle for the PWHL Takeover Tour, which will now, of course, be the home of PWHL Seattle. I got to sit down with Jessica Campbell, one-on-one interview, similarly to actually, that was anyway, I got to talk one-on-one with Jessica Campbell, and she told me 2025 is the year of Beniers. That's what she and Maddie were talking about. And so I wanted to follow up on that. And then there was something that she said about Maddie's development that made me want to ask her about Shane, because in some ways, and I said this to you, if you're an everydayer and an OGer, I talked about the difference between Shane Wright and Maddie Beniers, and that Maddie had to learn the hard part of the games, the physical part of the games, just thrown into the fire, right? Comes up from Michigan, and he's learning on the fly. Shane, a different trajectory. And while I don't think the physicality of the game is where Shane needed support, the how to think the game and keeping a sharp and keen mentality is what Shane seems to need. And so I asked Jessica about that. And I also told you that if there's one thing that I want to see Maddie improve upon, it is, do you remember? Just say it out loud. Think about it. I'll give you 3 more seconds. Skating. And Jessica Campbell confirmed that in this conversation. Here's my chat with Jessica Campbell. We were in New York City for the ESPNW Summit, where Jessica was a panelist, and she took some time to talk with us for the Locked On Kraken podcast. You talked in January. You talked about Maddie Beniers and his development and the time that you were able to put in there. Thinking about how he ended his season and some of the conversations that you had with him, what would you say about that?
Maddie's right on his way. I think I'm really excited about even Maddie's season. I think he took steps in the right direction to trend towards the type of player that he's going to need to continue to be. But I know he's hungrier than ever. I had conversations with him obviously postseason throughout the season of just him trying to unlock the areas that he needs to be an impact player. He's so dependable in every zone, but there's a lot more I think he's striving towards on the offensive side, driving plays, executing, and that's the piece, and plan. We really put together, I think, a focused plan that we crafted based on his season, analytics involved, and the types of areas. Skating's going to be a big focus for him this off season, working on his first 3 steps, his acceleration, being able to drive the play and obviously get to areas where he needs to find that success with time and space. And so it's all been just, it's been a journey for him. I think he's finding his best self, and now there was moments throughout the season highlighting, and we saw it, when Maddie's going, he's the driver of this team, and he's going to continue to take those steps, but it's just the beginning for Maddie Beniers.
I love that you mentioned the skating. It's definitely something that I've noted, and it seems like, you're the right person to maybe help out with that. I want to ask about Shane then as well, because I think with him, there was a lot of conversation about him being able to put on weight. I mean, with Maddie as well. But I think Shane really focused on that. I felt that he looked really strong coming into camp. And maybe where Maddie had to learn the hard parts of the game in real time, it seemed from a distance that Shane's trajectory and what he needed to focus on was not so much on the strength, but maybe more of the mental game. Yeah. How would you, similar question to what I asked about Maddie, but what were some of those conversations?
Shane, it's interesting because I've had the fortunate role to be able to grow with him and go through this journey, watching him, really tap into the type of player and unlock the type of player that he needs to be as a pro. Obviously, I think the tangible aspects are there for Shane, the skating, the strength, the shooting. It's now putting it all together and finding that mental frame to be the best that he can be and manage the adversities that the league presents. And you have to live that firsthand. You have to go through that. He's matured so much in becoming a true pro, and you see it, you feel it, and I think that's what you acknowledge. Like, it comes off in his confidence of how he is now showing up as a player, and I truly believe, too, we've yet to see the best of what Shane Wright's going to be. I think there's so much excitement. We should be excited as a fan base of both Maddie, Shane, and our youth of the Kraken, because Shane has proven, and looking at the whole season, one of the biggest highlights and I think success story is Shane Wright's season. Coming in still as a young kid, but mentally his game took off in a way where after, he sat for a few games, he came back so much stronger from that, and he used that, and I'm really proud. Knowing him, knowing how he's been through his growth in the AHL, I'm really proud to see where he's going and that he can take a massive step now in terms of volume of what he can bring every night of being a leader in an offensive creator for our team. And he now believes he's a full-time NHLer and he's on his way.
I mean, again, I thought that Jessica had really great nuggets for both Maddie Beniers and Shane Wright. That was our exclusive conversation. If you're a member of our Insiders program, then you have full access. You have access to the full interview, I should say. If you want to join, you can text 918-713-3154, get a 14-day free trial of Substack, which we use for our Insiders program. And I have a specific playlist in YouTube that is for insiders only, and I give you the link. That's how you can listen to that full conversation. Jessica Campbell still owes me some chirps. She said we can get that done, so I'll have to wait till I see her in Seattle. She also told me she gave me some thoughts about what her PWHL loyalties might be. I said it yesterday. I've said it before on the show. She worked with the Ottawa team, who's on their way to the playoffs. But now there's a Seattle team. So what's that going to look like? You can be an insider and listen to that full conversation. Before we head off to the next segment, where we're going to talk a little bit about World Championships and the Kraken players representing different federations, I want to point out two things. One that Campbell said about Beniers, one that she said about Wright. When Maddie's on his game, he's a driver of this team. That's what I've been telling you. There was so much criticism of Maddie Beniers, and is he focusing too much on winning faceoffs? That it's that was his sophomore slide. To which I continue to say, you want a top centerman that can't win faceoffs? Are you kidding me? He focused on that part of his game. We heard from Maddie Beniers at exit interviews. Actually, I don't think I've played his exit interview yet. The snippets. Now I have to go back. I can't even remember. But in his exit interviews, he talked about that he was proud of his two-way game. And it was his two-way game that was critically important for the Seattle Kraken this season. It might not have looked and felt like we saw from his rookie year. It sometimes felt like it wasn't what we needed. And maybe we needed Maddie to be a little more selfish. That being said, he played his role and he played it well. What she said about Shane is that she agreed with me that his physique, he came in fit, ready to go from that perspective. You can visibly see that this young guy has put on some weight. He has absolutely beefed up comparative to, his last few training camps. And getting to a place in his mind and his mindset where he has the habits, the confidence, and the capabilities to be an everyday NHLer. You heard Jessica Campbell say he's on his way. considered Shane's season a success and that it's all about building up to volume. And so I know a lot of people are like, why are we not getting more Shane Wright minutes? Listen, I'm okay with that. They're taking a little bit of a scaffold approach with Shane Wright because they see that that's what he needs. Matty Beniers, different. I'm assuming that Matty Beniers is more of a tactile learner or someone that likes to be able to physically touch, see, feel what's happening, where maybe Shane Wright is a little bit more cerebral first and he needs to visualize or be able to break down in his mind everything that he needs to do before he can execute it on the ice. If I had to guess, and I'm going to find out for you, because now I'm fascinated by that. Coming up on Locked On Kraken, speaking of Matty Beniers and his development, he'll have an opportunity once again with Team USA, but he won't be the only one representing the United States and certainly not the only member of the Seattle Kraken, your 2024-25 Seattle Kraken, just put that out there. He won't be the only member of the Seattle Kraken at World Championships. We will get into that coming up on today's episode of Locked On Kraken. All right, today's episode of Locked On Kraken also brought to you by our friends at Wonderful Pistachios. If you are looking for a snack that is both delicious and nutritious, then crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help you feel fuller for longer. And, some people like the no shell variety. I know my co-host of the Women's Hockey Report prefers the no shell variety. Some people like the Zen experience of cracking open the shells and then having their kind of edamame style pile. Either way, if you need something quick, on the go, a nice protein boost throughout the day, Wonderful Pistachios is for you. Something that you can have at your desk, keep in your gym bag, take on a road trip, all of the things. So, Seattle hockey fans, get snacking, and as always, get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. All right, Seattle hockey fans, thanks as always for making Locked On Kraken a part of your daily destination. Erica L. Ayala here. Talked about Shane Wright and Matty Beniers in the last segment. In the first segment, draft lotto, boo, tomato, tomato, tomato. I mean, just boo. And it's kind of what I expected. Let's move on, though, to Worlds. Matty Beniers, 2025 is the year of Beniers, and wouldn't you know, that includes him being able to represent the United States. World Championships coming up. As a matter of fact, in a preliminary game, a little friendly, little tune-up between the United States and Germany. The United States comes out on top. Matty Beniers will be among 8 total players from the Seattle Kraken actively on this roster or in the pipeline that are headed off to Europe to play in the IIHF World Championships. You've got Matty Beniers and Joey Decord representing the United States, Brandon Montour, as well as Riker Evans representing Canada, Elli Tolvanen representing Finland. You've got Adam Larsson representing Sweden and Philip Grubauer representing Team Germany. So those are your players that you recognize from the NHL roster. You also have Oscar Molgaard, who is going to be representing Team Denmark, and that's super cool. Also, just as we're kind of talking about players here, and I thought about it when I saw Denmark, but Oliver Bjorkstrand injured, didn't play in the Stanley Cup playoffs with the Tampa Bay Lightning, and And I mean, kind of got a pretty serious setback with the injury. So we are, of course, hoping that everything is all right with Bjorkstrand, and that he and his family are in good spirits, and that soon he will be in a speedy recovery and return to good health. But excited. So it's a lot of these guys have been with their national team before. The two players that are making their debut, Riker Evans for Canada and Joey Decord for the United States. And so I'm excited that we get to keep up with international hockey. I love international hockey. It's the style of hockey that I gravitated to as I was learning the game, mostly on the women's side. But I'm super excited, and I think that going off of the year of Beniers, right, and some of the things that Jessica Campbell said about Maddie B, I think it'll be interesting to see what role he plays and what role he can play for Team USA. We saw him at the Olympics. Uh, Infamously, notoriously, was not selected for the shootout. That was a super bummer. But whether it's shootouts or his skating, what are some of the things that maybe we can see from a different perspective, assuming that Maddie Beniers will have some different responsibilities with Team USA? I'm super excited for that. Same with Joey Decord. Making a international team as a goaltender is super tough. Because usually teams want some continuity in net, even in the preliminary rounds. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. Eli Tolvanen for Team Finland, his second overall appearance. Same with Montour and Team Canada. Tolvanen played in the 2018 Men's World Championship, and Montour played in the 2019 World Championships. So hopefully there'll be a few of our Kraken players that will come home with some hardware. That's going to be super exciting. Tomorrow's episode will continue just to talk about what's going on with the draft, any updates that we know about Jessica Campbell, or what our kind of organization is thinking about. I want to talk a little bit more about Maddie Beniers and World Championships as we get into it. And then the off season, what kind of moves is Jason Botterill going to make? I know he was on with King 5, so we'll talk a little bit about that interview in the coming days. And of course, we got to keep up with our Coachella Valley Firebirds and our Kansas City Mavericks. All of that on Locked On Kraken. Until next episode, be kind to yourself, be kind to others. We hold fast, we stay true, and we say loud and proud, let's go Kraken. Let's go Firebirds, and let's go Mavericks. I'll catch you on the next episode. Hey, and before I say peace out, everybody, make sure you check out the Women's Hockey Report. We put out a midweek episode to get ready for the playoffs that start tomorrow, May 7th, and we will have a live stream show Saturday morning. That would be, it's going to be early for you Pacific time folk, 7:30 a.m., 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. So check us out. All right, now for real. Peace out, everybody.